Live and direct from anywhere in the world, it's The Kelly Show with Dr. Kelly Mondesire.
Hello and welcome back to The Kelly Show, real people with real stories in real time. And of course, I am your hostess, Dr. Kelly Mondesire. So as you know, in this new year, this month of January, this is our month of focusing on those who are giving back and creating social impact. Well, here's a fun fact you might not know about me is I am an absolute dog lover. I love dogs, all kinds of dogs. And I've had dogs, I've rescued dogs. And I'm segueing to this because today I have a very, very interesting and special gentleman who's going to come on board and share what he's doing with all of us. He is a performance coach, a retired Army officer, and he is the managing trustee of Realist Dream. And we're going to talk about what Realist Dream is and what this gentleman does. May I have the absolute pleasure and honoring Mr. Stef Hinds to the show. Stef, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Well, and thank you also for having me, Kelly.
Well, sir, thank you very much for your service. Thank you. All of us appreciate what you have done for all of us. Thank you, sir. So tell me, Stef, where are you from and where are you right now? Where in the world?
So I'm Scottish, so I'll try and keep my Sean Connery accent there for you, for your American audience. But I spent most of my life traveling the world, and I currently live in Germany. So I'm between Berlin and Hamburg at the moment.
Okay. Well, we live in a very crazy world, and we talk very often about feeding humans, clothing humans, housing humans. However, as important as that is, we have four-legged furry friends that need our help as well. And we'll get to that a little bit later on. But I'd like to back it up and hear more about your history, how you ended up in the armed forces, what did you do? And Gareth, I think we have a couple of slides to put up while Stef gives his story to us. Look at this. Thank you, sir. Wow, what a photo. And tell us what your rank was, where this photo was taken, and also this photo of you on skis.
Okay, so the picture of me in uniform is when I was an officer, a captain, and any military people watching will understand the importance of this point. I was commissioned from the ranks, so I did my full service as a soldier and then commissioned. It's a small but important point in the military world. So I began as an apprentice electrical engineer at the age of 16. I went to military college for 3 years and studied electrical engineering. And then I specialized in control equipment, which essentially is armored vehicles, working on the laser range finding, the thermal imagery, the gyro control, that kind of thing in military vehicles, which is great and exciting and what most boys would dream of, growing up and working on big machines. But I was always a fan of sport. And the great thing about certainly the British Army is they value sport and adventurous training, things like skiing, climbing, skydiving, all of these things, but because they use them to develop character, to develop a belief in yourself, to build reliance in teams. And the thing about adventurous training is it's the best training for teams and individuals without the targets firing back, because it really puts you in a position of a perceived element of risk. It pushes you to the bounds of your physical and mental abilities. And it's a great practice area to get people into the mindset that will ultimately serve them when they deploy in operations and have to face an environment where the targets do fire back. So I found myself moving from engineering, doing sports and adventurous training, and I was fortunate enough that I was good at things. And in the Army, if you're good at things, they make you an instructor in those things. So we also have adventurous training centers around the world, which have to be staffed by military staff. Once I started collecting my badges and my qualifications, then I became one of the instructions. When I was down instructing in those centers, it was seasonal to begin with, and then eventually I went up the ranks, as it were, and became the chief instructor at the Adventure Training Center in Bavaria. So I spent a long time down there, and the longer I was there, the more qualified, the more experienced, more networked I was, and ultimately I spent 10 years of my 30-year career working in sports and adventure training, which is, and this is one of my pictures you see here of me racing, alpine racing, for the Army many years ago.
Okay. It's quite impressive. And we also have a slide of you while you were deployed. I believe this was Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure, yeah. That was my second tour of Afghanistan. Wow. And interesting side note, I'm sitting on top of an Apache, one of the Apaches that Prince Harry flew, because he was over there at the same time as me. So Captain, I forget, not Captain Wales, but we just called him Prince Harry, and Captain Hinds were over there at the same time. And I took my team, and we went for a visit around the Apache area. And this is where we took this picture of me and my people sat around that fabulous piece of machinery. So that was Afghanistan. And that was me finishing from the military adventures training side. I moved across into human resources. The Army put me through an MBA, commissioned me, and then put me in charge of this kind of administration team, this HR team here.
Wow. So let me ask you this, and here in the States, it's a topic of conversation, the transition from military life into civilian life, and transcending those skills and in the education you receive in military life to begin a career as a civilian. How did you find that transition between military and civilian, and what did you find yourself as far as profession when you left the military? Please share.
Okay, so everyone has to do it. It's a little bit like death, because everyone does it on their own and everyone's is different. So I joined the Army at 16 and I retired at 45. I didn't plan my retirement particularly well, because I was literally on operations. So I was in a high profile, high tempo job in Afghanistan. And then I came back to Germany and immediately retired, handed all my equipment in, and then went and sat at home on my own with no responsibilities, no role, no real plan, because my previous year had been spent focusing on the operation, and I hadn't really put a lot of investment into myself. And that's something that a lot of military people suffer from, because we commit heart and soul to the role we're in the military. We tend to have it as an afterthought moving into civilian environment, and that's what catches a lot of people out. So it's a massive transition. So overnight, I lost my job, I lost my identity, lost my position, lost my direction. I even had to move house, moving out of the military community. So just about everything changed in my life in one fell swoop. And for me personally, I found that challenge beyond me, which put me into a pretty dark depression. And the irony was I got depressed and anxious, and people just assumed because I'd left Afghanistan and now I was suffering from mental health issues, they just assumed that it must have been because of Afghanistan. But the irony is my problems, my lack of identity had been building up many years before that. And I was purely everything the Army wanted me to be. I was that guy. So I got promoted. I had a successful career, but I wasn't investing on who I was myself as a person. And when I was suddenly left to look at me on my own, I didn't know who I was. And I tried to do the military thing, drink my way through it. That didn't work, thankfully. So I then had to start getting help, getting professional help, and I started having to work on myself. So I was able to re-identify myself, which put me on my journey as a coach, because I realized, my goodness, I was a pretty level-headed guy, doing pretty well, pretty level career, supportive family around me, and I could go through these things. How many other people are there out there struggling with this transition and losing? It's not going from job A to job B. It's your entire life being transformed. So I decided to put myself into this role as a coach. And I'm pleased to say that my suffering was not in vain, because I used my experiences coupled with my qualifications to help other people through transitions. Not only military people transition to civilian life, but there's a lot of people who get to their mid to late 30s who suddenly realize that they've put the ladder on the wall, they've got to the top of the ladder and they're on the wrong wall, or they're starting, maybe their children have grown up and left, and there's empty nesters wondering where they're going to go with their lives, So I kind of catch them in that moment and say, hey, it's okay to feel the way you are. Let's take this journey together and let's walk on your next chapter. So that's the role I see myself as a coach.
That's bravo. I commend you, sir, for doing all this and coming out of such a state, and not only with brilliance, but also to help others. I personally spent 20 years in the television business and did just about everything you could do in that industry. And at the age of 39, I said, well, I don't want to be in a dark edit room for 22 hours a day, just about every day of my life. There's got to be something else. Mm-hmm. And I went to med school and I became a physician. So I get that. However, I didn't lose my identity and my purpose overnight, as you and so many veterans do. Mm-hmm. Just like that. So my hat's off to you. So talk to me a little bit about, how did you come about forming or being the trustee of Realist Dream, and what is Realist Dream?
So let's go back one stage to the coming back from Afghanistan as well, because the military is a career for your family as well. So my daughter was in a boarding school. My wife was on her own whilst I was out in Afghanistan. And the sad thing is, in the military environment, you see the very worst of humanity. So when I had seen those things whilst my family was struggling at home, so we'd been through a lot of challenges, as you can imagine. So when I did recover, and it sounds like it was a moment's decision, it wasn't. It evolved over time. But we did make one decision, which is, we're going to spend the rest of our lives focusing in on what we want and who we are and what we want to do. And whilst that was happening at the same time, we got a ski apartment, because obviously I'm a skier. My wife's a ski instructor as well. We got a ski apartment in Bulgaria, which is a geographically beautiful country. It's fabulous mountains, coastlines and everything. It's in Eastern Europe, which makes it, let's say, affordable. So my military pension would have put me in like the top 10% of earners in that country. So we decided that we would buy a place where we could go and live quality life, ski in the winter, hike in the summer, eat good food, enjoy the kind of Mediterranean style lifestyle that they have there, the pace of life and everything. So we went there. And unfortunately, that's when we discovered that it also comes with a horrendous street dog problem in Bulgaria. We were already dog lovers. And the way that it happened, this is the Realist Dream story. I was over there for 3 months with our 2 dogs while I was helping with or project managing the finishing of our apartment. Nicole went back to Germany. Every day I was walking my dogs past a building complex, and there were guard dogs there, but the guard dogs also had a litter of puppies. So every day I'm walking by and I'm seeing these little babies, and I had no Bulgarian, he had no English, but the guard there, I used to say, good morning, dober den, whatever you want to say. And we built up a kind of non-verbal relationship, where he saw me, smiled, saw my dogs, smiled, all that kind of thing. And I used to bring him bags of dog food and everything. One day I said to Nicole on the phone, wouldn't it be cool if we could take one of those puppies for our own? And in a Western naivety, we were like, oh, I hope he would allow us to have one of these puppies. So I grabbed a friend who was a Bulgarian speaker who spoke English. And, I was like, oh, God, I hope it's going to be okay. I said, please ask him. I brought extra bags of dog food to bribe this guy. I said, please, could we have one of your puppies? And, of course, they had a conversation. And he said, yeah, sure, no problem. And I was like, that's amazing. So I went to the kind of runt of the litter. So I remember it was 3rd of November. It was 3 degrees Celsius, right? So the frost was on the grass, and there was a bundle of puppies, and then there was a little black and white one lying on its own. And then instantly I was like, well, that's the one I've got to take because no one's looking after her. So I picked her up, and I was there. And the mountain range where we were is called the Rila Mountains. So that's important in the later in the story. And then I casually said to my friend, because the puppies had gone from 10 to 9 to 8 to 7, this was number 6. And again, my Western naivety, I said, so who took the other puppies? And the guard said, oh, they just get run over on the street. And I was like, oh my goodness. And he said, yeah, it's just part of life. That's what happens. So now I've gone, I cannot phone Nicole and say, yeah, I got this little puppy and I left the other 5 to die. So again, I'm still in my Western mindset. I took all the puppies. I thought, right, I'll take them all. I'll take them to the vets. I'll get them sorted. Then I'll take them to the animal shelter. And that's when I learned that Bulgaria doesn't have animal shelters as we would understand them. Mm-hmm. So now I'm in our apartment. I've got our 2 adult dogs, and I've got these 6 puppies, and I've never brought puppies up in my life. So baptism by fire, wonderful, exciting experience. Learned loads about me, about dogs, all that kind of thing. Nicole and Anina, our daughter, came over for Christmas, and then we took those dogs back to Germany. And we had them microchipped, we had them injected, we had the passports and everything. Took them back to Germany and rehomed them, found homes for them. And we were like, well, wasn't that an exciting adventure? Let's never do that again. So then we gone back to our apartment in April. And by this time it was like golfing season. I came back from the golf course, and Nicole's there, and she said, don't go in the bathroom. I was like, why would I not want to go in the bathroom? She said, don't go in the bathroom. So I went in the bathroom, and there's 5 puppies in a box in the bathroom. To which she said, you started it. And I was like, oh, for goodness sake. So I went, okay, no worries. I know what's happening. I know the drills. We can do this. So we got them checked, vaccinated, medicated, transported back to Germany, and rehomed them. We were like, whoa, it was easier, but that was great. Yeah.
I think we have a few photos. We have a slide of some of these. Keep going, okay. Stef. I'm loving this story. Keep going.
Okay. So this time in July, we're back in Bulgaria, and we're sitting in a restaurant, and a lady came up to us, and she said, are you the guys who rescue puppies? And of course we were like, no, you must be thinking of someone else. And then we thought, well, actually, I suppose we kind of really are. Because we've rescued 11 puppies in the last 6 months. So, yeah, I suppose we are. But so we sat and we chatted about it. And of course, I'm Mr. Organized and Mr. Sensible. And I said, well, maybe we could do it as a hobby, but it's not taking over our lives. So that was 12 years ago, 1,500 dogs ago that we've rescued. We're now organized, we're insured, we're trained, we're registered, and it's our entire life. So Rila was the name that we gave to the first dog. And Rila, when I picked her up, when we were thinking about what we were going to call our charity, I remember that moment. I can still visualize it now, picking Rila up out of the frozen grass. And when I had Rila in the apartment, when you get the sunbeams coming in through the window and they land on the floor, Rila would lie in the sun. And when the sun moved, she would get up and lie in it again. So I always envisioned that Rila lying in the grass on the 3rd of November, in that cold morning, she was dreaming about having a full belly, having a warm bed, and having cuddles. So we called the charity Rila's Dream, so that every dog that's dreaming of what Rila is, we will give them their dream. We will fulfill their dream.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And all we did after that was we just did it. So, you know, I can fill you in on the details. It was a long, difficult journey. There was so much joy. But what I will say before anyone says, oh, what a martyr, it's absolutely the best mistake I've ever made was rescuing dogs, because they fulfill me. They're the common bond that keep Nicole and Anina and myself together, because we all love animals. We all have our own busy lives. My daughter is a doctor, a veterinary doctor. So she's graduated this year. But we've got this common bond that we all live for and love animals. But animals make our life. So dogs, when I go into the picture here, you see is our dog compound. So it doesn't matter what the world is doing, politics, you know, business, weather, whatever's happening. I walk into our hound pound, as I call it, and it's just unconditional love. And I defy anyone to go and be miserable in that kind of environment. They're always loving. They're always positive. They're always happy to see me.
And is that their own transistor radio hanging from the tree?
So that's a solar radio, because it's surrounded by woodland. So it's kind of really quiet there. So what it means is they go on hyper alert at every little noise that they hear. So we have these little radios around just making ambient noise. So they're getting used to hearing voices and noises, and it actually helps them relax. So they're not constantly on guard. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have those, and they're solar and they're waterproof. And if they fall down, they get chewed and things like that. So they're replaceable.
Oh, that's great. I always used to play classical music for my Suki, who was a rescue, but we went to Therapy Dog International School, and she became a therapy dog, but I had her until she was 15 and a half years of age, and she went to my clinic every day with me. We did everything together, everything. And there wasn't one person that ever met Suki who didn't smile. I mean, she was double trouble and mischievous, but she was also very loving. And what was profound was that dog, if I had a patient on my exam table who was really sick or really depressed, the dog wouldn't do her usual antics. She would come over, sit, and just put her head on the table and just look at them, and they would just make them so peaceful and smile. And yeah, I have just relocated to the south, but I will be rescuing another dog in the very near future, because there's nothing like a dog. Speaking of which, who's that doggy in the black and white photo? Because I want to kidnap that doggy.
Well, that's Duke. He's a Caracachan, and sadly he left us this year. But he was my big boy. He was like the alpha, the silverback, as it were, of our packs. So he's gone sadly, but he had a wonderful life, and you know, he was loved every single day. So you know,
I'll bet. You can tell from that photo, you know, I believe in doggy heaven, and I believe they're all up there where trees grow cookies and life is good.
Well, going back to you describing Suki and the impact that she had with patients, they have an energy about them, which when humans are open to that, they will align to that resonance, and they will interact, and dogs can read that. So they don't read it on a verbal way. They're watching our body language, and they can see when we're hurt or sad, and they just feel the need to support. So they'll just go there and be with them. And you know, that's the most beautiful thing. If you want to learn about mindset, you want to learn about positivity, you want to learn about inner peace, then dogs, animals is where it's at. Dogs, horses, you know, and that's why there's a growing use of dogs. You mentioned therapy dogs. You know, but the use of animals in therapy to help human beings realign with that kind of calm, that inner peace, that it's beautiful. And once you live in it, once you realize it, that's what my hound pound is my favorite place on the planet. And I've seen the world, and I've been around places. I have dined with royalty, but I'm telling you, if I had the choice of being at that table with all those royalty or being in my hound pound wouldn't even take a second to make a decision.
I get it. I hear you, my friend. I'm with you on that one. And let's put it this way. Last question, and we saved this for last because we have a beautiful slide up here. We're going to show the slide first, but if you can name one person, place, thing, or experience that you're grateful or thankful for, who would it be? But before you give me that answer, Gareth, would you put up this amazing slide? Talk to us about this slide, who those people are, and the event here, because these are just such beautiful, beautiful photos. Go ahead.
So far and away, the people, because they came as a package, because I met Anina when she was 3 years old. She's my stepdaughter, but it's never, ever been anything other than she's my daughter. And my wonderful, loving wife, Nicole. She's my soulmate. She's my lobster for the Friends fans out there, because she's German and she didn't like Friends with the German translation. So when we first got together, we watched Friends in English for the first time and she loved it. So as we were growing our relationship, we were watching Ross and Rachel growing their relationship. So we say we're soulmates and we're lobsters. But Nicole is my North Star. She's my rock. And Anina, who's now Dr. Hinds, she has, I told you, graduated this year. She's becoming the mirror image of her mother. So I love Nicole beyond words, and then to have my daughter grow into who she has grown into. These are the people who, when I was in my, I say greatness without a sense of arrogance, because it followed a fall, or it then led into my fall. No matter where I was in my life, when I was in the deepest, darkest holes, they never left me and they stayed with me, and they've kept me strong when I was weak. So
wow.
There you go.
And can you tell me the tartan that you're wearing in the middle photograph? I know that it represents a clan. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So that's the McCall tartan. And the thing is, my name is Hinds, and although it's a Scottish name, it's not an ancient Scottish name, so it's not one of the clan names. So I went back through my heritage, through my grandparents, and one of my grandfathers was called McCall. So it was a wonderful experience itself, because I got my kilt to marry Nicole, because we didn't get married until we were in our late 30s. So we went to Edinburgh, and we went to the Royal Mile outside Edinburgh Castle, which is another story I can tell you in a minute. But we went to the different mills to find the different tartans, because they have ancient versions and modern versions, and it's a whole science to get this. And then Nicole chose the right tartan, then we had the kilt made, and then we got all the ancillaries with it as well. And then I wore it on my wedding day when we got married. So that was a wonderful story. But we got married in Montego Bay in Jamaica. So I was the only man in Jamaica wearing a kilt that day. That's a crazy story as well.
Well, thank you, Stef. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Could I tell you one more story, please? Because it's
sure, absolutely.
So I used to be the admin officer for the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, and their headquarters is in Edinburgh Castle. So I had to go back and do an audit there, and I had to stay in the castle for 5 days. So I stayed in Edinburgh Castle for 5 days, and I booked into the officers' mess families accommodation, and I brought my German wife and my German stepdaughter, and we lived in Edinburgh Castle for 5 days. So
wow.
That was fabulous. So
that's great. Did that come with room service?
No, it was actually pretty basic, but what it did come with is all of the displays open an hour before the public come in. So because we were on the inside already, Nicole and Anina got their own personalized tour around the crown jewels and all the armories and all the different artwork that's there. So it was pretty special.
Wow.
You know,
I can imagine. I've been to Edinburgh Castle, and wow, it's huge. It's beautiful. I love that city. It's just it's a real happening place.
Well, Edinburgh's our favorite city in the world. It's like you say, it's such a small place, but there's not a brick, there's not a building, there's not a street or footpath that doesn't have a history to it. You know, it's fascinating.
Definitely haunted. Definitely haunted.
Oh, if any place is haunted on the planet, Edinburgh is.
Yeah, this is true. I met some of them, but that's a story from another day. But anyways, I want to thank you so much for sharing not only your story, and thank you again for your service, my friend, but also telling us about what you're doing and how something as small as rescuing one dog has made such a difference in so many lives, and how you're making a difference in people's lives, not only veterans, but those who are transitioning into a new phase of life that can use your help. So folks, if you would like to get in touch with Stef, here's his contact information for Reela's Dream. If you'd like to donate or find out more information about rescuing dogs and or Smart About Stress. He is an amazing gentleman. He's here for you. If you need the help, please reach out to him. And Stef, I want to thank you once again for being on The Kelly Show. And I hope you'll come back with more stories, because I know you have them. And folks, if you would like to be a future guest on The Kelly Show, email us. Contact information is down here. Look, email us. Tell us who you are, where in the world you are, a brief description of what your story is, but more importantly, why you would like to be a guest on The Kelly Show. And while you're at it, please subscribe. Again, it's all down here. Please subscribe to The Kelly Show. We would appreciate any sponsorship, and also tell a friend and tell them to subscribe. So stay tuned for next week's show, because this January is the month of social impact. And next week's guest, it's a secret, is going to blow your socks off. So don't go away. Stay tuned. Peace and love. Gareth, take it away.
If you would like to be a guest on The Kelly Show, send us an email with your contact information, where in the world you are, and a brief description of the story you'd like to share today.